You made it to my channel, Niche Gaming. Today I'm going to review the Rezvani Hercules 6x6. As with all of my reviews, they are based on New Game Plus settings and use in the Michigan region, so far. Even when I review trucks that will be used in other regions, those reviews will still be based on New Game Plus rules as part of the same playthrough. The rules I select balance fun and challenge. They give a little bit of extra money to buy a truck or some upgrades, but they also include rules that make automatic truck recoveries and auto loading 4 times more expensive, so I try to balance things that way. It is my hope to play with as many trucks as possible, to test out all of them, whether I use them in my fleet or not, and to create reviews based on my playthrough. I'll mention hard mode every now and then. I'll often talk about how my rules differ from that mode, because I know many people play it, and regard it as like the ultimate test to whether you're good at SnowRunner. Hard mode does require you to suffer through many weaker trucks just so you can survive, whereas I prefer to have a little bit of luxury so that I can evaluate the differences between the trucks, use their advantages, and have a good playthrough, and have some fun while I go through. I still won't be able to be reckless with my money or trucks, so the realistic simulation and challenge is still there. Now, with that context in mind, let's talk about the Rezvani Hercules 6x6. In 2013, Iranian-American Ferris Rezvani formed Rezvani Motors so that drivers behind the wheel could experience the G-forces that pilots of F-4 fighter jets feel. Rezvani has established itself as a manufacturer of powerful sports cars and luxurious, military-grade, tactical off-roaders. It's common for these vehicles to be 1,000 horsepower and above, raw power and luxury. These are all by design over the top. In 2014, Rezvani launched products like the powerful sports car Beast. In 2017, they launched the off-road utility vehicle called the Tank. And then in late 2020, they released a 6x6 luxury off-road truck called the Hercules. As with many of Rezvani's trucks, they offer military-grade upgrades to the body and many security-related features. The Hercules 6x6 was made to be a luxury off-roader with over-the-top engine upgrades for those who can afford their price tags. This is not a work truck. You get it for the sheer fun of driving such a powerful off-roader and to show off to your friends how rich you are. Obviously, I'm talking about the real-life truck. I believe the price tag starts at $300,000, but I'll talk more about the engine that's available in real life later in this review. In SnowRunner, the Rezvani Hercules 6x6 is a standalone premium DLC that you have to first purchase to add to your SnowRunner game. Once you have the DLC, you can buy this truck in your playthrough from the truck store for $39,400 in-game currency, and then the cost of the upgrades. It's in the Scout category, and that's really all it can be used for in SnowRunner, scouting. I highly recommend using this as your initial scout if you are running something similar to my New Game Plus rules in your playthrough. Even if you are playing in hard mode, if you're considering buying a scout, get this one as soon as you can afford it. It gets always-on diff lock, switchable all-wheel drive, available in stock, and access to decent mud tires. Only the gearbox and engine upgrades can be found, and they are all shared with other trucks. Most of the upgrades you have to buy are the add-ons, since the diff lock and all-wheel drive come stock. It has excellent body balance, a short turning radius, a huge fuel reserve with its add-ons, above average engine power for a Scout, and excellent fuel efficiency. It makes for the most independent and reliable Scout you will have in your fleet, and it is perfect for many contests and tasks made specifically for a scouting truck. If this truck has a weakness, it would be that it cannot attach trailers, not even Scout trailers. The Rezvani Hercules 6x6 is truly a premium vehicle. Now let's talk about the dimensions and design of this truck. Length 6.2 meters, width 2.1 meters, length to width 2.952, weight 6,000 pounds, that's only in real life, 3 tons. In the game, according to the map runner stats, 4,000 mass. Body balance, I give it a rating of excellent to perfect. Plus, as a scout, it can get autonomous winch. The Hercules 6x6 has a compact width, allowing it to squeeze through tight spots, which is perfect for a scout. In spite of it being long, it's still slightly wider than the CK1500, Chevrolet CK1500, and the Scout 800. And it's quite low to the ground. Even after the race suspension, its height stays quite low to the ground, which is great for body balance. This was great for body balance with the white Western Star 4964, which is a hauling truck, and those are even harder than Scout trucks to keep upright. And this truck, because it's lower to the ground, it's just that much better. The body balance is perfect. The design of this truck is amazing. In real life, it is heavier than the CK1500 and a bit lighter than the Scout 800. In game, it's heavier than both. As I mentioned, the 4,000 mass. The 6 wheels, all of these 6-wheeler Scouts, 3 axles versus 2. Instead of 4x4s, you get a 6x6. It's unusual for a Scout and gives it one of the best body balance ratings in the game. You just can't do too much better than this for a scouting vehicle. Any good Scout gets always on, diff lock, and at least switchable all-wheel drive. And the Hercules 6x6 is an excellent Scout. Configurations, 6x4, and of course 6x6, all-wheel drive. The name itself, Rezvani Hercules 6x6, as branded. 6x6 is mentioned in the very name. Because the tank and some of these other sports utility vehicles that Rezvani made, they were 4x4s. And here they wanted to specify, this is one of our 6x6 models. Differential lock, always on. The always on differential lock is a feature of the best Scouts in the game, and is important for good control through the mud and on every kind of terrain. You can use a freeway gearbox, but since you need this truck mainly for scouting, which means it's constantly going through mud, you'll want to use the SnowRunner gearbox, which gives you 2 extra low gears, low plus and low minus, in addition to low regular. I've actually not seen any benefit to the high gear in Scouts. You might as well just stick to auto. So when you're not in low gear, just get up to auto. With the heavier hauling trucks, high becomes an advantage when you're trying to go uphill, especially with a lot of load, and you're trying to go uphill and you're trying to keep your acceleration. Then high gear becomes useful. With scouting trucks, because they're not nearly that heavy, and you're not trying to haul a bunch of load, then this is not nearly as big of a factor. And that's why high gear is just not very useful for Scouts. I think they give it because some of the trucks that they have as Scouts or labeled as Scouts, they're really just medium duty trucks. And maybe the SnowRunner gearbox is useful for that high gear because they're actually hauling trucks. But otherwise, the high gear really has no practical use for your scouting. You're not going to be hauling much with this truck, but you can, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The 6x4 configuration, which becomes 6x6 when you switch all-wheel drive on, really gives you better power, performance, and stability. The extra axle is a welcome luxury for scouting trucks and SnowRunner. The Rezvani Hercules 6x6 comes stock with its trademarked off-road tires, and it does have access to some decent mud tires. The mud tires are 39-inch MS1 mud tires available, 0.5 in the asphalt, 3.0 in the off-road, dry off-road, and 1.6 in the mud. Suspension is stock and of course raised. And with this kind of truck, you don't even blink in raising the suspension. The raised suspension is a must so you can get the 39-inch mud tires, instead of the 37-inch ones. This is one of the most stable trucks in the game, so the effect of the race suspension on the body balance is negligible. The off-road tires are suitable for this truck in real life, because those who drive this luxury off-roader will split time showing off on the main roads and going off-road. In SnowRunner, however, since your scouting truck constantly needs to go off-road and in deep mud to scout watchtowers and get the upgrades, which are often in the most isolated and hard to get places, you really need to get the mud tires. Unfortunately, it doesn't have better mud tires than these. These are just average category mud tires, but that's what it has. They couldn't make the truck too perfect. They had to give it some weaknesses. So this would be one. It doesn't get, but even then I would say like it's not premium. The tires are mediocre and no better than the type the CK1500 and Scout 800 get, the MS1. This is just one of those things that makes it non-premium, but everything else is so premium. So overall, yeah, I'd say the truck is very premium, but some features are maybe mediocre and there's other weaknesses that I'll talk about. There's one or two. It's mainly the tires though. If the tires could have been a little better, this truck would be unstoppable. It would be the perfect Scout. As it is, it's still excellent, one of the best Scouts you're going to get. But we're going to have to talk about some of the weaknesses. When it goes through mud, you just have to be patient. That's why you need the SnowRunner gearbox. Keep it low, low minus, low regular, low plus. Go through nice and slow. Some of the really swampy, muddy areas, you're going to slow down in there, which is pretty much standard unless you have really big special mud tires, and some of the Scouts do have that. But then, you know, they may not have the same body balance, they may not have the same amount of fuel, lots of other things. So when you look at all in all, yeah, I would always go with this truck, but there are some really swampy areas, like the one in Smithville Dam, where you're going to get a watchtower. It's so incredibly swampy that you're going to get stuck, and it's going to take a nice long time, winching a little bit here and there. You can't avoid that. Rezvani Hercules 6x6's turning radius is nice and short, and it's very easy to control. Even though this truck is longer than the CK1500 and Scout 800, it can still make sharp turns. This is essential for weaving through narrow pathways throughout your scouting of the region. There is no noticeable terrain feedback either, and it's very hard to lose control. You have to basically, again, like with any truck, you want to lose control, especially with a truck that's stable as this one, you have to go full speed and then of course make a sharp turn to try to make yourself flip over. And then of course you'll flip over. As with any truck, when you invest in off-road or mud tires, you could expect some loss of traction on pure asphalt. So of course you have to keep your speed under control when speeding on the main roads. For me, it gets an excellent rating in the steering and control column. Short turning radius with excellent steering and control. The Hercules 6x6 couples one of the largest fuel reserves available for any Scout with excellent fuel efficiency. Its base fuel tank is supplemented by 3 add-ons that can be equipped simultaneously, giving it one of the largest fuel reserves in the entire game. 400 liters total. So 80 liters for the base tank, and there's one add-on, and you can add these on simultaneously or they stack. 80 liters plus 60 liters plus 100 liters plus 160 liters. And that totals for 400 liters at any given time. Having so much extra fuel on long scouting expeditions allows your Scout to be independent and improves the chance that you won't need any fuel rescue for this truck. Fuel consumption efficiency tops out at a level 6.2 liters per minute on 4th gear all-wheel drive on. Diff lock is always on. With the Scout trucks, I mentioned a little extra. The consumption range at low gears is a level 2.4 liters per minute to about 3.8 liters per minute. So that's what you'd expect for most of your playthrough, but it tops out at a level 6.2 liters per minute on 4th gear all-wheel drive. Spikes can go above this. That's a SnowRunner gearbox, no hauling, on off-road terrain, all-wheel drive on, and of course, diff lock always on. Adding to the huge fuel tank, the 3 add-ons don't just give you that much extra fuel, they also give you spare tires and plenty of spare parts. In my new game rules, I doubled the repair points needed for damage done to a truck. So if a truck takes 10 damage for the suspension, for example, then it's going to cost me 20 repair points to actually repair it. Yet, I rarely needed to pay for restocking the repair points. This just adds more value to this truck as a Scout. You can even tug a Scout fuel carrier around because of the superior power of this truck, even though it can't attach the trailer. Those do have 900 liters of extra fuel, adding to the 400 liter huge reserve you already have. I mean, it already gets 400 liters. You can even winch around a Scout fuel carrier no problem and still go through everywhere you need to go and Scout just fine. And on top of that, the fuel efficiency is better than you're going to get with the CK1500 or the Scout 800. And I really like what they did there with the newer engines. They always give them better fuel efficiency so far that I've seen. So the engines that are made, let's say this one was launched in 2020. So the engine is going to be a far newer engine than trucks that were launched back in the 80s or 60s or 70s. Obviously, their engines are not going to be anywhere near the technology that's available now for car manufacturers. So I really like this simulation aspect. The fuel efficiency is superior, as it should be. Rezvani Hercules 6x6 has one of the better engines for the Scout class of trucks. Its real-life engine is a 7-liter supercharged V8, 1300 horsepower. You heard that right, 1300. You can go right to their website. I'm not messing with you. That's just ridiculous, over the top. You don't need 1300 horsepower for an off-roading truck, but it's pure luxury. It's pure showing off. It's just for fun. It's just to feel that kind of ridiculous amount of power. Real-life engine, 7-liter displacement, supercharged V8, 1300 horsepower is the highest upgrade commercially available for the Rezvani Hercules 6x6. The game engine, of course, is much more toned down and much more realistic or reasonable for SnowRunner realistic, what you needed for in SnowRunner. So HET 8V 6.2 liter turbo gives you 120,000 torque according to MapRunner stats and 4,000 mass, as I mentioned. Power to weight ratio is around about 30. As I mentioned, the real life engine was just too over the top. 1,300 horsepower. Are you kidding me? Even the biggest hauling trucks don't get that. Yes, this is a luxury off-roader in real life and a premium truck in SnowRunner, but it wouldn't make any sense for the gameplay if they tried to give the truck's highest engine upgrade in real life an accurate representation in the game, because SnowRunner is not about experiencing G-forces, like the reason for this company, Rezvani. The game version is still on the higher end for Scouts, and is also used by other trucks like the Hummer H2. You find one upgrade of this engine in Alaska, or you can just buy it. The best engine upgrade for the Hercules 6x6 gives it an amazing power to weight ratio and enables it to winch most two-piece cargo trailers, Scout fuel carriers, and service trailers around with ease. Now we come to the reason for a lot of people's frustration about this truck. If you were using this truck for hauling, I can understand why you'd be frustrated by this. So yes, of course, the Rezvani Hercules 6x6 has no functional external add-ons. The external add-ons that exist are all for fuel and repair parts. But there's nothing like a flatbed or anything like that. Nothing that's designed for any kind of hauling whatsoever. Because that is not what the truck was for. In real life, it's not what it's for in this game. It's an amazing Scout. Use it for what it is. Don't try to use it as a hauler. Now, it does still get the engine power it needs to haul around Scout fuel carriers, maybe service trailers, take them out of the really deep mud and bring them in so your heavy trucks don't have to go in the most ridiculous kind of mud, and just bring them into more reasonable terrain. And so they're excellent for that. They're perfect. It has more than enough power. You can winch that just fine. Take that, even like maybe a two-piece cargo, bricks or metal beams or something, just bring it to a more reasonable area, and then leave it for your hauling trucks to actually use that. Or maybe a Lodestar 1700 or another Scout that has medium duty hauling capabilities, and let it handle hauling that truck. They can actually attach a Scout trailer. This one can't, so you won't be able to complete any tasks or use the cargo on a Scout flatbed. But you can with the Lodestar 1700 or another truck. What you can do with this truck is one thing I did in the Island Lake map. There were some service trailers in really, really muddy areas, and rather than have my Caterpillar CT681 or another truck go all the way in that really heavy mud, use a Rezvani, get into that part where that service trailer is, winch it out. It has more than enough power. It'll go nice and slow and steady through the heavy mud. Don't try to rush it. It's going to take its time. Low minus, low regular, low minus, low regular, low plus sometimes. I mean, you're going to be going nice and slow to the swampy areas. But bring it out to the more reasonable, less muddy, less swampy kind of main road of Island Lake, which is a pathway, really. It's not really roads in Island Lake. Very limited where they exist. It's mainly just off-road. The whole thing is off-road. It was one of the more challenging maps of Michigan. So there are definitely times where you want to use the power of the Rezvani. You try to do that with a Scout 800, it's going to be a nightmare. I've tried it. So you compare it with other Scouts, early game, especially Michigan, and it'll blow them out of the water. It's just, it'll perform better. But it can't attach that Scout trailer and then complete that task. You'll need another Scout truck that can actually attach Scout trailer. So you could use the CK1500, you could use the Scout 800, or you can use Lodestar 1700 or many other Scout trucks who actually can attach a trailer. This one cannot. And of course, it doesn't have any other external add-ons besides the ones that help it just stay out and keep scouting all day. So I understand a lot of people are like, oh, what kind of premium truck is this? Well, it's the kind of premium truck that is made purely for scouting. It can do some of the tasks that you need, scouting to help a little hauling, but you don't want to use this truck as your main hauler and kind of really hauling tasks. It's all about scouting. It's all about going in really uneven land, really swampy areas. And it's the endurance stamina. It's out there for so long. It's got so much fuel. And if it can winch around a Scout fuel carrier, then you can be out as long as you want. If you're not careful like me, drive around really fast and try to get everything done fast as much as possible, then yeah, you're going to take a lot of damage. And that's probably the only thing that you'll ever need to go and restock your repair parts. The fuel you'll never run out. Especially if you can winch around a Scout fuel carrier that's filled up and you got 900 liters plus your 400 liters, you'll never run out of fuel. You can scout the entire region and not have to worry about another truck coming to save you. And of course, you can do other tasks like the Rusty Legacy in Island Lake. You can use the winching power of this truck and its actual engine power because it's more powerful than the CK1500. It's more powerful than the Scout 800. More powerful than a lot of Scouts in the game. So you can easily winch those around like they're nothing and complete a lot of those tasks. Won't need another truck for that. I don't really get the disappointment from so many people. It's not worth it. I would say it's one of the most worth it trucks ever when you look at all of its advantages. I honestly think that for the gameplay balance, so that this truck is given at least some weaknesses, they gave it this limitation. Obviously in real life, it wouldn't have this kind of limitation. A scouting truck needs to unlock watchtowers and get all of the map's upgrades. And these are distributed throughout and often in hard to reach places. To be effective, the scout truck needs to be stable, independent, have a large reserve of fuel, be equipped with some power, and keep fluid movement throughout various terrain. The Rezvani Hercules 6x6 gets always-on diff lock, switchable all-wheel drive, a short turning radius, and decent mud tires. It's one of the most stable and reliable trucks in the game. It hosts one of the largest reserves of onboard fuel through its external add-ons and is one of the most fuel-efficient trucks in the game. It is equipped with a superior engine for the Scout category and can winch small trailers around like they're nothing. It can even winch around an 1,800-liter Scout fuel carrier. I think it was a 2,000-liter as well. It cannot use any hauling add-ons and it cannot attach trailers, but it makes up for these weaknesses 10 times over. with all of its features. I would recommend that you get this truck and use it as your main Scout as soon as you can afford it, regardless of the type of playthrough you're going through. The Rezvani Hercules 6x6 is invaluable to my fleet, especially in Michigan, and one of my favorite trucks in SnowRunner. That's it for this review. If you liked it, don't forget to give me a like, share, subscribe. Obviously, I referred to you have to make comparisons, obviously. If you're looking at the Rezvani Hercules 6x6 and trying to determine how good of a Scout it is, you have to compare it to the natural comparisons. That's the Scout 800 and the Chevrolet CK 1500. So do check out those reviews and compare the three trucks and see why I love the Rezvani Hercules 6x6 so much. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe.
you.